earlier in the week. Kind of awkward, because I mean, it's awkward anyway. You know, you're meeting a child and you're trying to get to know each other, and you know, in a ways, adults and children, there's this sort of age thing going on. You know, it's not easy to be friends with a child, and you're not looking to be friends with a child. You're looking for a child to want you to be their parents, and you to want that child as a child in your family. And so, you know, how do you approach that? And so we ended up with as I said, we were on the phone for about 20 minutes, but it was kind of, I felt awkward. It was kind of awkward. Because, yeah, what do you talk about? What's the child going to think about what you're talking about? So, yeah, what's your favourite food? What do you like to do? That sort of thing. And I don't know. But anyway, we'll see how it goes on Sunday. Because that's going to be a slightly different experience. And then, but we both, yeah, we all have an input into the decision. So, because the child is old enough, they can decide if they like us or not, and where it goes from there. But we'll see. I mean, on the plus side, she wants to be adopted. But, yeah, it's then being the person she wants to be adopted by, or the family she wants to be adopted by. And I don't know how that works. But anyway, that'll give us a chance to go shopping while we're out. I'm still not positioning that camera right. There we go. Fair amount of concentration here. Getting this in the right place and dump. Well, that's a little bit overfilled there. That's going to cause problems later. And now. Forward a little. I got that stuck, haven't I? Okay. We're going to have to do our usual cheat method of getting out and dragging it down with our hands, because that's totally realistic. Strength. Super strength. There we go. Fix that. Open the back. So yeah, this bunker's getting a little full for what we're doing here. Let's have a look. 246. I think we can get 500 in there. Although I might not. We can collect. Still only 9:30 in the morning. The chances are none of this will turn to straw. Hay. Yellow stuff. Yellow stuff, what you feed animals with. So I might... I'll continue doing the collecting as the... At least until we get caught up with the tractor in the middle here. And then maybe we'll stop and just leave the rest to become hay. Hay, yes, hay. Because I do want hay. At least sometime this year I want some hay, just so that we've got enough in storage to survive doubling of our sheep flock and get to next summer when we can do this all again. Okay, oops. It's all very, very tricky stuff. Okay. So, dry grass there, grass to the right, whole patches of grass at the end here. I still want to put a little farm track at the end here. Just so, also undefining this part of the field at this end will mean the tractor doesn't come down quite as far. It'll give us a little more room to turn around. I could chop out the tree in the middle and replace that, although there's probably some environmental reason why it should stay there. So maybe I'll do that later. Also need to do things like figure out course play sometime, because that would probably be kind of helpful for fields on this map which are less than square. Oh, there we go. So I figure probably 2 more loads, and where's the gate? Okay, I've lost the gate. About level with that tractor. There we go. And the reason, you make hay now is because spring it's always wet in the morning, so you never end up with a dry product. The drying conditions aren't great, so you could go through the night, which risks rotting the grass and ending up with wet grass again in the morning, so any drying you did the previous day is lost. And in fall, it tends to rain a lot, so you have to look for days where there is a lot of drying potential, plus it's wet as well, generally wet. So getting hay during the fall is also difficult. Since this is the only cut we're going to be doing this summer, really looking at this being our only opportunity this year to make hay. Now, fortunately, we do have a lot of hay bales in the barn. We sold all the straw, so I'm thinking what I might do with the hay is stack this year's hay on the other side of the barn where we had the straw. That way we can use the older stuff first. Do have somebody sending me messages. Yeah, I kind of gave up on. Okay, well. Yeah, that was. We'll get through the gate this time. Okay, well, I can always drive through the hedge if the worst comes to the worst. Turn that back on. So, where are we up to? Yeah, I used to do Wi-Fi, but I kind of figured it's a lot easier to do, especially with the compact nature of the office. It's a big room, but yeah, we've got 2 computers close together with all of the extra bits and pieces, and so it's just easier to wire everything rather than Wi-Fi everything. I think the only things we have on Wi-Fi are the phones. Everything else is hardwired in. I even, when I bought the router, because the modem only has 2 outlets on it, I need a few more things plugged into that. And of course they're thinking, oh, you just need to do Wi-Fi with everything. So no, I kind of like my stuff going through wires, because they tend to be far more reliable. So I went and bought a router, and what I'm really looking for is a router with basically approximately 4 to 8 outlets and no Wi-Fi. And they're like, oh, don't think we've got any of those. And then one of the sales assistants went running off and said, would this work for you? So yeah, that's exactly what I'm looking for. So I basically have a router with 1 input port and 7 output ports, so we can run all the computers and the printer when we unpack that. Extra computers, if we end up adopting a child, they will probably need a computer for work or for school work, and so that will get plugged in as well. But it's just more reliable. Things don't break. You don't have to keep reconnecting to them. The problem I had with Wi-Fi was every so often the signal would drop, and it's sort of, oh, now I have to reset the modem. No, that didn't work. Reset the PC. Oh, no, that didn't work. But as I said, obviously with the modem we do have Wi-Fi. We have a high-speed private channel and a lower speed public channel, which still requires a password. But so I was trying to connect something to it the other week. I don't recall. It might have been someone visiting needed Wi-Fi connection, and yeah, we got that. And they couldn't connect because the device they were using wasn't capable of using the latest high-speed connections, and so I had to go into the modem and configure it so that they were capable of accessing the lower speed connection, because we hadn't set that up for fairly obvious reasons. And okay, that's done. So I'm going to jump down to the field. I'll leave this up here for now. And we'll jump down to the field and grab the challenge and bring that back, and then windrow the rest of the field that hasn't been done yet. You there. That should be everything folded away nicely. So I need to windrow that patch and the patch over by the front gate. Actually, I probably need to close that gate. I wanted to get the windrower down there. Good morning, cow lover. This is a solo play farm, so no, you can't join. Oh, you can have a shout out, and good morning and welcome to the stream. Sorry, I didn't understand what you typed. I wonder if the Microsoft Flight Sim would be choppy running off your Wi-Fi. I don't know. I'm hearing that the new Microsoft Flight Sim is going to be quite system intensive, and that could mean a lot of transfer of data. The best games tend to be... Oops, wrong button. Let's go backwards. If you think about things like Elite Dangerous and World of Warships, World of Tanks, any of the other sort of shooter type games, they tend to be very low data requirements on the transfer, and so if they're streaming the geography graphics, then that's going to put a high demand on any connections that you have, and could very well end up to be a downside for anyone with lower speed or whatever. As I said, probably not going to end up doing much with Microsoft Flight Sim myself. I'm not actively flying now, and it's not something... it's something that it's far more fun to do it in real life than it is in sort of virtual life. That's why I virtual farm. I'd probably be a really bad farmer in real life because I don't do plants very well. Plants always die. It's kind of amazing I've kept a fish alive for so long, but our first trial with fish also died, so yeah, the Sims I tend to play are things I don't do in real life, which is probably a good thing. And back when I did play Flight Sim, it would it was to practice what I was doing in real life. So I was flying the same plane out of the same airfield. And obviously the landscape wasn't quite the same, but it was at least close enough that you can fly when you can't fly. Coming from the UK, a lot of the days flying was not on the cards because of the weather. So, learning in the UK can be very slow. And, I was flying, in a month of 4 Sundays, I may get 2 lessons, but there could be 2 weeks where I wasn't flying at all. And it's very difficult to build your skills up when there's 21 days between you putting them into practice. And now I made serious leaps and bounds. I was a computer consultant at the time and came to the end of one contract, and there wasn't anything out there. So I just went to the flight school and said, okay, not flying weekends for the next for the next week, but I would like to book a lesson every day in the morning around 9 o'clock. So they said, yeah, sure, not a problem. And I flew 4 of the 5 days that first week. And then following week, still in the same state. Okay, no problems. We'll go again 4 days. 5 days booked, and ended up flying 4 of the 5 days again. And so, that earns you a lot of skill, a lot of time back to back, and that happened, and but during the off time I was doing. Let's run across the bottom here. I was doing some flight sim just to keep my hand in and keep the practice up. But I used to fly. At the time, it used to be known as the PA-28 Piper, but I believe they've changed the designation to the P-28A now, because there's another aircraft that is also a PA-28. Now, the PA-28, or the P-28A as it is now, comes in 3 models. There's the 140, 160, and 180, and I've flown all 3. I was flying the Warrior, which is the 160 in the UK, and then when I moved to California, initially I was flying the Cherokee, which is only a 140. The Warrior's 160. The Cherokee's 140, so I was flying a plane 20 less horsepower. And then that flight school, there was the flying instructor quit, and they only had the one flying instructor, so that was kind of a problem. But there was another flight school on the airfield, or at the airport, and so I went to that one, and they had the Archer 180 horse, and that was a really nice plane to fly. And then September 2001 happened, and that flight school went broke because nobody was allowed to fly for 6 months, and they couldn't keep up with their plane rentals and everything else, and so I haven't flown since then, which is a shame. There we go. Okay. So, do I think that's enough? Now we'll go and get the collecting wagon and do a little bit more collecting, I think. I'll take my time though. If it dries out to hay, we can bale it. Piper's a nice training plane. Oh, that was that was the thing. The Archer of the owner was basically leasing it to the flight school, and he decided he didn't want students flying it anymore. So I did fly a Cessna 178S for a couple of months before September. So over that summer, basically the Archer owner decided he didn't want it being used by student pilots anymore, so and they had basically what happens is that the plane owner will allow its use for a flight school with the general requirement that the flight school is covering the extended at least the extended costs of the plane, so at higher insurance, because the flight school trainee pilots are using the plane. There is I believe there's an increase in servicing intervals. You have to get it serviced more frequently if it's being used by a flight school, and they cover those costs. And most of the flight schools have a deal with the mechanic on the airfield to give them a good price on maintenance because they're using them so often. That's done. And he just decided no, he didn't want the extra wear and tear on his plane, so he quit. He withdrew his permission to use it from the flight school. So the only planes they had left at that point were the Cessnas, and the only plane I had flown up to that point was the PA-28. So I had to kind of recertify with a Cessna, and that is, surprisingly enough, a completely different flying experience. The Cessna is a high wing airplane, the Piper's low wing. So the Cessna is a good sightseeing plane because there's nothing to impede your vision of the ground from the cabin. But in my mind, I liked the Piper. The Piper's easy to get in and out of. It's easier to do the walk around because everything's down at person level rather than having to perform acrobatics to climb up on the wing to check things out. And it's easy, in my mind, it's easier to land. The thing is with a Piper, or the thing is with any plane, once you get very close to the ground, the wings give added lift, so the plane almost floats. And that's what you're relying on when you're landing, because you're coming in at almost zero power and just dropping the plane on the ground and wrecking your motor while you're doing it. And with the Piper, because the wing is underneath you, it gets into that what they call ground effect much easily and much earlier than with the Cessna, where the wing is over your head. So when it's almost like the difference between driving a big truck and a car. If you take it, you learn to drive in a car. You get in a truck, and it's sort of, whoa, where'd the ground go? And with the Cessna, to get into ground effect, it's almost like, how close do I have to get to the ground before this thing starts floating on me? And the first few times I tried landing the plane, it's sort of, I'm feeling like I'm trying to deliberately crash it into the ground in order to get to the point where it starts floating and becomes easier to land. Normally, most people will learn in something like, will start learning in a Cessna, because they're far more prevalent and cheaper to rent. Oops. But excuse me, sorry. That's one piece. Yeah, they'll usually rent a Cessna, or learn in a Cessna, and then they have, when you want to take your flying to the next level, so multiple engined aeroplanes, complex engines, retractable undercarriage, that sort of thing. Each thing you do has a different learning requirement. High power engines, anything over 180 horsepower, 200, I think it's 180 horsepower. You have to, you have to learn specifically that type of aeroplane. Now, you can bundle it all together, but that can get very expensive very